I feel like you need to use your intuition at least a little bit, in my opinion. Now, that's not to say that you can't use absolutes, and a lot of people do, and that's great. It works for them, but I like to leave a little bit of, you can call it room for error, intuition, whatever, because I don't really trade off of a strict plan. I have guidelines, but I tend to trade decent using mostly intuition, I guess. But maybe someone else doesn't, right? That really, I think that's where a lot of the what is your style, right? Like, what works for you, all those kind of sayings that we've all heard, you know what I mean? I think that's where a lot of that comes from. There's a subjective nature to charting, to be sure, because there's too many variables to make it concrete unless you were like a computer. It's just not possible. And that to me is why bots don't do well long term. Not as well as like a good human being that's a really good trader. But bots will never compare because you need intuition. You need that emotion, you need that feeling in technical analysis and trading in general, I think. It's one of the things that's like a double-edged sword, I guess. So your emotions can really hinder you and work against you, but you can also use them to your advantage. So which way you go is dependent upon you, your mindset, how you frame things, that kind of thing. But that's just the way that I think about it.
I think with intuition and technical analysis, it kind of feeds off each other, right? The higher you are and technically inclined, more confidence you have, and then your intuition becomes more, focused in those moments. I find
Right.
it just kind of feeds off each other, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's all an experience in anything you do.
that's right. Yeah, it's not like, and I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, they emphasize like having a trading plan, a strategy written down, their rule set. And I like, that's great. I agree with it. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a good thing because that's how we can poke holes in how we trade, right? For me, I have that. It's a little looser, like I have some guidelines, but I won't say that I break them, but I will bend them a little bit. And I always have like kind of a backup rule, like just what I did, right? Like, so like I'm looking for in an uptrend, I really want to see 2 distribution candles, but I have to also keep in mind that crypto is very volatile and there's a lot of big wicks, right? And this could be a lot of distribution candles on just one time frame below. So that's one of the ways in which I've kind of adjusted what I've learned from, people that teach and explain supply and demand, because most of them teach it in the scope of like Forex, right? They're Forex traders. I mean, I would say 98% of them are, but Forex does not move like crypto does, not even remotely close. I mean, it moves what, 1% or 2 a day max, whereas even Bitcoin can move 10% in a couple of hours. And then don't even get started on an altcoin. I mean, you're talking about 40, 50, hundreds of percent in a day. So I think that there's adjustments that need to be made, and that's one of them for me. So I like to see the 2 distribution candles. So like in this spot right here, we start that uptrend, and then I see 2 distribution candles in a row. That tells me like this is a good high, right? And then this comes down, and then as soon as I see 2 accumulation, I know the lowest low before that point that I just marked, that's the low, right? So the high and the low, this makes a new high. Now, these are the parts where it gets tricky because it comes up. There's not two distribution candles in a row yet, but it happens here. But this candle is lower than that one. So this is where I have to use my judgment. And I kind of squeeze the chart up a little bit. And I'm like, what makes sense as a high and a low and this point? I mean, to me, it's not this one and this one. It's this one and this one. And I will use percentages to kind of back that up for me. Because if I measure that, like I said before, for the 15-minute, I like to see a 0.5%, you know, from this move up or this move, this high to this low is, you know, 0.5%. So that's what I mean by I'll bend my rules a little bit, but I always have like backup rules. But they're not absolute. I just think I don't like to put myself in a box. I think it's, you know, I think it's good for some people, but I think there's different types of traders. I think there's traders that do well off of writing down these rules and strictly following them and, you know, never, you know, breaking them or bending them or whatnot. And that's all well and good. And I encourage it. But I also think that there's people that, you know, trade better being able to bend the rules. And then I think there's people that trade better not having any rules, just looking at the charts and being like, oh, I think it's going to do this. So that to me is where we get all the sayings of like, oh, well, it depends on, you know, your personality, like your trading style and so on and so forth.